It's tradition during the season of Lent to give something up. It's a season of fasting and prayer. How you fast and what you fast is a personal decision. For some, they give up meat or chocolate or TV. Some people like to add a spiritual practice like prayer or reading scripture daily or giving an extra donation to a cause that God places on your heart. There's any number of ways that you can be observing Lent, whether that's a daily activity or if you take Sundays or evenings off. I do encourage you to do something. I find it helpful in my own spirituality, and since living with a couple Muslim roommates, I have seen how fasting can be a community experience as well. There's a certain community bonding that happens when you know that you're fasting with others. Which is to say, I hope I'm not the only one in our churches fasting. I need a few of you to join me in my misery. That's right, I've decided to fast myself. I'm doing two things this year. First, I'm tracking the food I eat on an app. I've done that lots before, but this time my goal isn't to lose weight. I actually set my goal weight at 220 pounds. So instead, for this Lent, I'm simply trying to track it as a way of being mindful of food. I'm going to try punching in the food items on my app as a sort of digital grace, a way of saying thank you to God for all that God provides. The second thing I decided to do was to fast from memes and reels. I know not all of you will know what that is, so I'll explain. Every social media platform has these short videos like TikTok does, and they're very easy to get sucked into. Because the video is short, you think that you're just going to watch one more, and before you know it, an hour has disappeared. I find that very frustrating. And I've even set restrictions on my phone that will clock me out after a certain time, but it's not enough for me. I decided that I need a good and proper fast from all short videos or reels. Feeling enthusiastic about this, I posted it on Facebook. I've got a lot of friends who will send me funny videos they see, and well, that's how I get sucked into it in the first place. And I needed them to know that I'm not going to be responding to any more memes. I post that, pat myself on the back, and scroll just a little bit down my Facebook wall. Immediately, I click on the first video I see, just like I always do, and 15 minutes disappear before I realize that I have just broken my fast. I failed even before closing the app. My fast didn't have a chance to start. Oh, goodness. This is going to be hard. Which is a sign that I picked the right thing to fast. Fasting should be realistic enough that you think you could do it, but hard enough that you're pretty sure you'll fail. You don't win at Lent. Lent is about failing. It's about stumbling, about realizing how frailly human we are, and having the humility to say, I'll try this again. It is humbling. But let me be clear, the humility doesn't come just in failing. The emotion you have when you fail isn't humility, it's embarrassment. In some extreme forms, shame. At the Super Bowl last weekend, Alicia Keys' voice cracked on the very first note.
Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all.
It's not terrible, but I know for her it would have been embarrassing, and it triggers every fear that I ever have when performing music. The humility comes when she says to herself, bad notes happen, no one's perfect, keep going. In one voice crack, she went from being an R&B pop star to becoming a real human being. Unfortunately, the NFL or her producers, someone was quickly editing that note away and deleting original versions. Business won't let the superstar be human. Our society is so competitive, so focused on achievement, that we're not allowed to be human. There is so much pressure on all of us to be superhuman versions of ourselves all the time. Social media is a large part of that because it keeps us comparing ourselves with our peers. But this pressure is equally in our corporations and workplaces. You're constantly told to work faster, be more efficient, to make more profit. Your workplace doesn't let you be human. And then we go home and scroll on social media apps that won't allow us to be human either. With that much pressure on us, we're quick to give up on the things that we fail at. We won't even try. Or if you're like me, the fear of failure just leaves you paralyzed. It's half the reason I'm staring at short videos on my phone. I'm avoiding the things I want to do, but am afraid that I'll do badly at, like writing this sermon. For many of us, fear of failure keeps us doing the same things over and over again, cooking the same meals, doing the same hobbies, sticking at the same job. We might not be 100% happy with it, but we can do them. Fear of failure keeps us stuck in this safe rut, afraid of going outside the tracks. We become reticent to try new things or to tackle bigger challenges. Doing something new never starts off perfectly. You have to play a lot of squeaky bad notes before you can start playing the violin. Failure is an essential part of growth and learning. In Lent, we face those fears of failure head on. We do something that is intentionally too hard, and we're forced to acknowledge that we're not perfect. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He did it. Great. I thank God that he did it, but I also thank God that I am not Jesus. I can never do that. I can never live up to what he did. But that doesn't mean I don't try. At the beginning of his ministry, right after being baptized by John, the Spirit sends Jesus into the wilderness. In the version that we read from the Gospel of Mark, the story is very short. It simply says that Jesus was tempted by Satan, was with the wild beasts, not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, and that angels attended him. It was a time of spiritual wandering, of being questioned and challenged, of finding help in the providence of God. A challenging period of really facing oneself. That's hard. I can't speak for Jesus, but for us, facing yourself and being challenged like that means facing your limitations, your humanity. You're not going to do that naturally or willingly. It's hard, so we need something like going into the wilderness or abstaining from certain foods or taking on new spiritual habits in order to force ourselves to be more mindful, more aware. In Lent, church tradition invites us to join Jesus in that wilderness, to walk with him symbolically. We may not be able to keep up, we might stumble, we might need to stop and rest, but that's okay. Jesus will wait for us. The point isn't to succeed and get really good at Lent. The point is your own spiritual growth, which happens through failure. I failed at my own memes and reels fast even before I started. But I'll keep trying. I know I'm going to fail at it probably tomorrow too, but I'll keep trying. And as Lent continues and I realize how long 40 days actually feels, I will question, what's the point? And I might really give up. In other years, I have given up. I don't know if I'll succeed this time. And the devil on my shoulder whispers, don't even bother. But still, I keep trying. I'll do my best to stay with Christ in the wilderness as long as I can. And I'll learn to accept that I fail. Failing doesn't mean Christ loves me any less. This Lent, I invite you to join me in fasting. We are a half week into Lent, so that means if you haven't picked something yet, you're already failing, which is a great place to start. So start now, knowing that this isn't about being perfect. There'll be no gold star. The pressure is gone to do Lent perfectly. Do it just because you want to, because the church invites you, because in the wilderness there is Christ. In the wilderness, you will encounter yourself. Fasting during Lent is one way to really feel the grace, forgiveness, and blessings of God. Plus, I don't want to be the only one fasting. Misery loves company, so come join me. Happy Lent.